Good evening, everyone. My name is Natalie Sanandaji, and today I'm here to speak out against the BBC and their recent documentary, which I find deeply disturbing and damaging. I am here as a survivor of the Nova Festival, as someone who has lived through the horrors of what happened on the 7th of October and witnessed firsthand the incredible pain and suffering caused by the Hamas terrorist organization. On that day, I lost friends. I lost loved ones. I saw brutality that no human should ever have to witness. The massacre was horrific, and the terrorists who carried out those attacks are not people we should be excusing or enabling. These are the same people that the BBC documentary chose to center. A family member of a Hamas official was featured prominently, and it was later revealed that British taxpayer money collected through the BBC's license fee, was funneled to the family member of a senior Hamas member. I cannot express enough how damaging this is. Imagine the hurt and frustration we feel when, as survivors of this unimaginable violence, we learn that our pain is being used to fund those who are responsible for it. This is not just a case of poor judgment. This is an active betrayal of the trust that the public has in institutions like the BBC. The BBC is supposed to be a respected, reliable source of news for the British public. The BBC is supposed to uphold standards of fairness and responsibility, and yet here they are, amplifying the voices of those connected to the very people who are responsible for the deaths of our friends, our families, and our communities. I've spent this past year and a half fighting for truth and justice. But it seems that sometimes the narrative gets manipulated for political gain. Let me share with you an experience I had. I'd been preparing for an interview with CNN about what happened on the 7th of October. The world needed to hear our story and understand the horror we went through. But then, just before my interview, CNN pulled out. Why, you may ask? Because they wanted to cover a rocket that fell near a hospital in Gaza. And when they reported it, they claimed it was an Israeli rocket without fact-checking. This wasn't just an oversight. It was misinformation that was spread like wildfire. It incited hate, it sparked riots, and it contributed to the anti-Semitic hatred that escalated in the days and weeks that followed. By the time they corrected the report, it was too late, and the damage was already done. This is the reality we live in. A reality where the media, including organizations like the BBC, have too often failed to take responsibility for the narratives they push. When a trusted institution like the BBC promotes propaganda that indirectly supports Hamas, it does more than just misinform. It contributes to a culture of hate and division, and it undermines the very values of truth, justice, and accountability that we hold dear. Let's be clear. The money that the BBC receives from the British public is meant to serve the public good. It is meant to inform, to educate, and to unite. But instead, it has been used to fund those who perpetrated violence, terrorism, and hatred. Shame on you, BBC. How am I, a survivor of this tragedy, supposed to feel when I know that people's tax dollars are supporting the families of the very people that wanted to destroy my people? This documentary and the BBC's failure to take responsibility is not just a media issue. It's a human issue. It's a question of ethics, of truth, of justice. It's a betrayal of the survivors, of the victims, and every single person who has suffered at the hands of Hamas. I stand before you today to call for accountability. I call for the BBC to take responsibility for their actions, to examine how their content is impacting the real people affected by the violence that they so casually report on, and to make a commitment to never again be complicit in promoting the causes of those who spread terror. It's time for the BBC to stop making excuses and start being the institution of trust and integrity that it claims to be. To everyone who stands with us, the victims, the survivors, the families, we will not be silenced. We will continue to speak out. We will continue to fight for the truth, and we will not allow the BBC or any other institution to stand by while innocent lives are used as pawns in their political game. As a survivor, I want to thank all of you for being here tonight, because it's obvious that it's up to us to use our voices to share the truth, because institutions like the BBC won't. So thank you. Yeah.